I was on the Homestead high-level bridge, stuck in traffic, and the first report of a plane hitting one of the towers just kind of came and went through the radio.
I was in Anaheim, California. I was working with the Seattle Mariners, traveling with the team, doing the pregame and the postgame show.
I was working in a similar job as a news anchor for WPOC in Baltimore, Maryland.
September 11th, 2001, I was in California. I was working in the Bay Area.
It was a beautiful day. It was just a gorgeous day, and the studio door flew open, and one of the guys who was working at Y108, his name is Steve Woods, said, "You got to see what happened. There's an airplane that crashed into the World Trade Center."
We all kind of thought, what idiot ran into the tower? I mean, we just all sort of made a joke about it at the time.
So I thought, oh, let's log on CNN.com and see what you could see. And we have very good internet in the building, and the site was not coming up. And that was the first time in my experience with the internet that a site was not available because people were crashing.
We were on the 22nd floor at Smithfield and 7th, and we had windows all around us, and I was just sitting in my studio looking out these windows expecting to see a plane heading right towards me. We were a block away from the Federal Building, we were a block away from Steele's building, which was, these tall buildings, and we just felt we were in prime target area, and so we were just trying to give everybody the information they needed, but again, very fearful for what would happen to us as well.
And then as we're trying to figure out what happened, I remember that second plane, and our news editor at the time and I saw it. I mean, the static shot, and you saw the other plane go in, and it hit you, that you're under attack.
So by the time I got to work, of course, everybody went right to the boss's office. As we're all watching TV, as news of the Pentagon, an explosion at the Pentagon.
We got a call at the newsroom from a truck driver who swore that he saw that happen. We had not seen the coverage of it yet, and at that point you have to remember there were a lot of rumors swirling around, and a lot of our listeners did work in DC and for the federal government. We were trying to be very careful in what we were reporting, so we told the guy, look, we've got to corroborate it. And right as we were saying that to him, we saw a long shot from a DC traffic camera across the river from somewhere in the city of a big column of smoke rising from the Pentagon.
One of the reports came over that we had at least 18 planes supposedly they hadn't accounted for yet. And there was that sinking feeling of how much worse is this going to get?
We had a team of people that were giving me reports of updates all the time, what was happening, and including the update about 20 miles away from where we were in Pittsburgh, there was a plane that had been taken over that was going by.
Just when we heard that there was a plane crash in Somerset County, remember I jumped in our news Jeep and just took off and I was doing 90 plus. I'd never gone through the tunnels that fast, but that was an experience.
I actually called my dad in Murraysville, and he was watching one of the local stations and said, well, they're saying it's Somerset County, and that began to nail it down. That gave me an advantage over some of the other folks in town because I was pretty familiar with the area and I was able to pinpoint it pretty accurately.
But what you did know is the biggest piece that you could see, and you could still see debris at the time because it had happened maybe an hour or two before, was like this. And you thought, how can this massive plane, and you get only small pieces, I mean, how devastating an impact, and what must have happened here.
So our boss said, can you stay and just talk about it? So we did for several hours after, and as things began to unfold, it was so surreal and so unbelievable what was happening to our country.
As a New Yorker, just how could this happen? How could somebody attack the World Trade Center? I mean, I watched that building go up growing up. And it wasn't even about, my immediate family. It was about the family of New Yorkers, the people you grew up with. You're calling people and trying to make sure that everybody you know is okay.
And at the same time, being a dad with kids at school, like every other parent, you're broadcasting at the same time thinking, are the kids going to be let go? Are schools going to be attacked? I think it was that period, it was about between 9 and 11 until we had finally figured that this was the end of it. I think that was a very tough 2 hours.